I recently listened to the audiobook for a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Wynn. And I'll add the link for you guys if you're interested in the description. And it's a really good book. I recommend it. In fact, I finished listening to it and I just went back and started listening to it again. I'll probably have it on, I'll probably come back to it every so often and just kind of repeat listen to parts of it just to make sure that the ideas he's talking about are really kind of, you know, really kind of fixed in my mind. The reason I think the book resonates so much is the idea of thinking and specifically overthinking that triggers a lot of our suffering. By the way, I would never talk about anything that I don't myself experience uh, all the time. In fact, anxiety, panic are things that I've been coping with for many decades. So I've researched, I've looked into it, and I've listened to a lot of, um, um, you know, psychiatrists and therapists, people online, as well as in person, talk about anxiety, all kinds of anxiety. It could be health anxiety, it could be anxiety over our finances, our careers, our relationships, our futures. But whatever it is, anxiety is usually always a kind of fear about something that could happen or is in the process of happening to you. It is a completely irrational, oftentimes irrational thought that almost like it invades our thinking and takes over. The thing that Joseph Wynn talks about in the book is the idea of like having choice. So that when we're triggered by anxiety, we have that choice to decide whether we want to like um, indulge that anxiety or if we want to very consciously step away from it and just kind of let the thought be. Don't fight it, but just kind of let it be, let it settle. And he uses the metaphor of a pot of muddy water and kind of letting the thought drift to the bottom of that pot of water, the way the dirt particles would drift to the bottom of the water, and the water surface is going to be clear again. And yet, that's how he thinks or believes and asserts, and I agree with him. How all our thinking really operates in our mind. So all the time, like often I'll wake up in the morning and we often have like our highest cortisol levels in the morning and everything that I'm um, vulnerable to, all of my most all the thoughts I'm vulnerable to are seem often to be um, they're always present in the mornings. You know, as I'm trying to start my like day, and as I'm trying to kind of make a plan and kind of get in the rhythm of the day, there's always these intrusive and almost you could say sabotaging thoughts that are trying to say, let's hold back. I think that there's something you need to know. There's something to be anxious about right now. In my case, it's always some health related anxiety. And I've actually looked into a lot of health anxiety channels on YouTube, and I found them to be extremely helpful and they resonate very truthfully with me. It always comes down to the thought and the process and habit of thinking, or as Joseph Wynn would say, overthinking these thoughts. Um, he is correct in his assertion that thinking is the root cause of all our suffering. If we could all cultivate this beautiful gift of just tuning out or dialing down the volume of our thinking and just live in the moment, just live exactly right in this here moment that we have. we will have saved ourselves a lot of suffering. So in the more, like getting back to what I was saying, when cortisol levels are highest, in my case, it's often in the mornings and it kind of goes in waves throughout the day. You are very vulnerable to having these very intrusive and scary thoughts, right? And they're anxious thoughts, and they can trigger episodes, episodes that can last for, a few minutes to hours, and sometimes off and on for days of scary, anxious thoughts. Um, so I find that when I'm in that state, and I'm trying to think to myself, what do I have in common? What's the common denominator when I'm going through these episodes? And it's always a feeling of disconnection, like disconnection from friends, family, loved ones. It's a sense of um, yeah, like this disconnectedness, a kind of um, we definitely we feel like we don't belong and we're adrift and we're feeling like we're adrift in the universe and we're alone, abandoned. It often harkens back to childhood trauma. So if we felt abandoned and anxious as children in our home, growing up in childhood, we're going those feelings have they haven't left even when we're adults. They're still there in the kind of the limbic system, and they are waiting they're waiting to be awakened again. They're not our enemies, they're just trying to protect us. They're just kind of there to say, wait, there's something you need to be aware of right now as a potential danger. So we have a threat meter, and for people with anxiety and so forth, that threat meter is always pinned. It's always pinning. So whenever you feel at a loss, like within, if you feel empty inside, disconnected from society, isolated, you feel you don't belong to anything, a higher purpose, that's when you're most vulnerable. So, what Joseph Wynn says is in that book, always keep close to your heart, you know, the most enduring thoughts that you have of peace, expansiveness, love, belonging. Keep your vision for yourself close to your heart, your vision for the future, because we all have um, some kind of dream for our future, whatever that is. So if you want to just consider that, sit down and just sort of contemplate, what dream do I have of my future? How do I picture my future at its best? And it's not a future of it's not necessarily a future of fame and wealth and all that stuff. It's a future you want to envision of feeling at peace. Because I think what we're really striving for is inner peace. So picture yourself in this vision that you have of what that means to you, what the setting is, who you're with. Um, really try to get specific. What's the weather like? What kind of setting is it? Is it a tropical setting? Is it the mountains? Uh, it's a future that you have envisioned for yourself that you're working towards. So in your mind, it's like, no matter how my life goes, I'm working towards that vision. So in a way, when you're working towards something, whether you're a writer, you're working towards it as a writer, or you're an entrepreneur, you're an artist of some kind, you're a teacher, all our effort is in the service of a goal that we have for ourselves. It's a goal of inner peace and community. Um, and I think ultimately that's what really makes human beings happy. We're social creatures. And that was the big takeaway from reading, or sorry, from listening to Joseph Wynn's book. And I really recommend it. There are lots of such books out there. I haven't really read that much of them, and I really was quite impressed with this one. because the points he makes are very simple. They're just about thinking and how overthinking is really the root cause of all our suffering. It's as easy as that. And he lays out a system, what you could call like mindfulness or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, a kind of reframing exercise you can do. I've never really liked those terms, and I don't really. I understand where CBT is coming from. I have never been a big believer in it because I think the mind is so much more complex. But maybe that's a cop out. Maybe I need to be better about it. But what I came away with, and what I've always believed is the it's at the heart of our anxieties is being able to manage them mindfully. We have to kind of be very mindful of those. Um, you might call it the lower brain, the child brain, because the thoughts of anxiety and fear and whatever it could be terror, hypersensitivity. They're all coming from the child brain. They're things that we learned growing up. If we were always exposed to these triggers, um, we're just always going to um, react the way we did as children. In fact, I think that like more often than not, more often certainly than we're aware, we are reliving our childhood all day. All day. We're reliving it through our thoughts. And whenever we're in a present moment, we'll something that might be happening in the moment might trigger a thought, that might trigger a memory, that might trigger a reaction that we had in the past that might actually inform the way we're reacting now. And we are just kind of this very complex hodgepodge of like impulses. You know, we're just these nervous impulses uh, in which the present is always interacting and interfacing with the past and the future, this imagined future. And the net result of that is this: we become a bundle of nervous anxiety. So I wanted to just share how much I really was really impressed by the book. Again, it's nothing too complicated. And the idea really is about staying in the present, in the moment, and remembering where you're blessed, because there are blessings, and staying true to that vision that you have for the future. I mean, I just said we don't want to think about the future because it invites anxiety, but that's not the kind of future I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a future full of worries. I'm talking about like um, almost like a state of rest. Consider yourself in a state of rest and like in the in like a vision for yourself in that state of rest. You know, and that everything that you're doing today is in this beautiful service of like to yourself um, for this blessed future. Again, I want to make sure I stress that you can't really um, have a. I don't think you can actually have a very fulfilling existence without connection, without connectedness, and you have to be absolutely humble as you seek out community and connectedness. It's very hard in this country right now to do. I've thought about this a lot, and I can make a separate video about it. And there are a couple of really fantastic YouTube channels where others are talking about the state of our society and how it's completely broken down and fragmented. I think the fragmentation of the family unit in America has only served the ruling classes and the richest who are kind of pulling the strings. For the rest of us, it's just been a daily grind of increased isolation and just running that hamster wheel, trying to make sure that we pay off our debts, make enough to pay our mortgages and our bills and rent and what have you. We don't get any time to think about where your soul is suffering. So, I think like it's really hard to well, maybe not that hard to heal from this hamster wheel, continuous 24/7 of anxiety and depression and fear. And we have to do that by asking the right questions and by being mindful um, of our thoughts. Um, just be very present, everyone. Just like be kind to yourselves and be patient. And we're all gonna have setbacks, but just one step and one foot in front of the other. Um, you know, just be mindful of your thinking. And as Joseph Wynn says in his book, it's the overthinking that's the root cause of our suffering. So I wish you all well. Again, I'll post a link to the audiobook and the book if you're interested. And I will see you all later.